Theresa May is to step up warnings about the risks of a no-deal Brexit after an acrimonious day at Westminster in which Jeremy Corbyn demanded that MPs hold a symbolic vote of confidence in her as Prime Minister. May will ask cabinet ministers to press ahead with no-deal planning in a meeting on Tuesday morning, the day after the Labour leader accused her of failing to secure any concessions from Brussels last week. Details of the meeting are due to be released afterwards, and mark the first steps in an attempt by May to persuade rebellious Tory MPs that the alternatives to her Brexit deal are worse, before a final vote which she announced would take place the week of the 14th of January. The Prime Minister's official spokesman said there would soon be an announcement about spending the Treasury's £2 billion contingency fund, and insiders indicated that would happen later this week after the cabinet meeting. May wants the increasingly serious no-deal preparations to dominate the Brexit discussion at Cabinet, even though ministers worried about the stalled negotiations with Brussels are openly canvassing alternatives. In the Commons on Monday, May told MPs in a tense and often acrimonious debate that a chaotic and economically costly no-deal would happen, unless they voted for her deal or Parliament decided to abandon Brexit altogether. No deal, the Prime Minister said, would risk the jobs, services and security of the people we serve, at the price of turning our backs on an agreement with our neighbours that honours the referendum and provides for a smooth and orderly exit. After the debate had finished, Corbyn demanded that the Commons hold a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister, because she had delayed holding the Brexit vote, originally scheduled last week, to the middle of January. Jeremy Corbyn announces he is tabling a motion of no confidence video. However, Labour also faced criticisms because the party deliberately chose a different form of words to that formally required to begin the process of trying to force a general election, where the necessary text states, "This House has no confidence in Her Majesty's government." A government defeat on Labour's motion would only be symbolic, although the party argued it would have political force. But the party nevertheless demanded that it be debated on Tuesday, although there is no formal requirement for it to be discussed until next year, when the opposition party next has Commons time available. The Hard Brexit European Research Group, which is opposed to May's proposed deal with Brussels, said its members would back May whenever the vote took place. The DUP also said it would back the Prime Minister. Its Westminster leader, Nigel Dodds, said his MPs would not support the antics of the Labour Party, meaning Labour's vote would almost certainly be defeated. With the Tory right and the DUP pledging support, there were some indications on Monday night that the government could allow the Labour motion to be debated swiftly, because Conservative whips were confident of winning. At the last opportunity on Monday, as Parliament was rising for the night, the Liberal Democrats announced they had submitted an amendment that would turn Corbyn's motion into a formal vote of no confidence under the Fixed-Term Parliaments Act. However, that was not initially thought to be binding because by convention votes of no confidence that have to be debated the next day have to be submitted by the leader of the opposition, in this case Corbyn, as well as using the specified form of words. Labour had originally said it would call for a vote of no confidence in May as Prime Minister if she failed to name a date for the final vote after she polled it last week, briefing some journalists of its intention to do so shortly before 3 p.m. The Prime Minister had appeared to have headed that off when she told MPs in a speech that began at 3:30 p.m. that we intend to return to the meaningful vote debate in the week commencing the 7th of January and hold the vote the following week. Corbyn initially withdrew the threat, when he spoke immediately after May and said that the Prime Minister had been dragged kicking and screaming to announce a date to restart the debate. That prompted accusations that he was not serious about trying to unseat the Prime Minister, and some senior Labour insiders complained they had not been consulted about the plan, which appeared to have backfired. Number 10 also said that Corbyn's office had been aware of what May was going to say from about 3 p.m, when a copy of her remarks to MPs had been sent to him as a normal courtesy before a major Commons debate. But Labour sources countered that their decision to call for a vote of no confidence in her as Prime Minister had been made before they had seen a copy of the text. briefings about Corbyn's plans had taken place shortly before 3 p.m. Making a point of order at about 6 p.m., Corbyn said, "It's bad, unacceptable, that we should be waiting almost a month before we have a meaningful vote on the crucial issue facing the future of this country," and demanded that his confidence vote be scheduled as soon as possible. May also told MPs that negotiations were continuing between the UK and the EU, telling MPs that she was seeking further political and legal assurances over the unpopular Northern Ireland backstop, in an effort to demonstrate it was temporary. However, European Commission officials in Brussels said that no further meetings between the EU and UK were taking place. "The deal that is on the table is the best and the only deal possible. We will not reopen it. It will not be renegotiated," a spokesman said. Downing Street wants the discussion on no deal to dominate the Brexit section of Tuesday's cabinet meeting, although some cabinet members want her to hold a series of indicative votes on a range of Plan B options if her deal is voted down next month, including a Canada-style free trade deal or a second referendum. Earlier on Monday, the Business Secretary, Greg Clark, said that MPs had to help break the deadlock. "One way or another, Parliament has got to move from essentially being critics of the agreement," he said. "But I think every MP now needs to regard themselves as responsible participants." May, however, rejected the idea when it was aired at the last cabinet meeting last week, and Downing Street warned that a series of votes would inevitably be a messy process because Parliament would have to agree on the procedure used, and each of the votes could in turn be subject to amendment. Number 10 also said that the idea that there could be a managed no-deal scenario should May's negotiations collapse was a fiction, even though it was talked up by the Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, and the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, over the weekend. Downing Street argued that the EU would not negotiate with the UK on that basis, and it was therefore impossible to achieve. Regarding no deal, the spokesman added, "The position they have set out there would not be discussions until after the 29th of March.